My mind, honestly, Dave, the last couple of weeks has been spinning with ideas on how to maintain this finish. What are ways for my clients and customers? Because I've already had a bunch of people reach out and saying, hey, when I get mine, it's coming straight to you. And they're like, what are we going to do? And I go, I don't know. I mean, we're going to figure it out. Lots
The
of
first thing
testing.
you're going to do is you're going to call me and say, hey, Dave, I got a Cybertruck. Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where, the Cybertruck mania, the question is it subsiding? I just noticed that on the referral site, the Cyber beer is now only 2,500 points down from 5,000 points. But I say the hysteria is not over. And I'm going to prove to you why it's not. I've got Coleton Guerin on the line with us today on the show. And he was one of the fortunate, lucky ones to be able to attend the Cybertruck event last Thursday. And for one, I haven't really spoken to him. I've heard Kyle, I've heard Coleton, but I wanted to talk to Coleton one-on-one and sort of just ask him, what was the event like? What was it really going on behind the scenes? And also, what are his thoughts about the Cybertruck? So let's get into it. Coleton, my man, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so psyched that you're taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that you've been traveling a lot lately, and I'm sure that's put a little bit of a backlog on your detailing business. I must tell you, for those that don't know Coleton runs the Out of Spec Detailing channel, and I know there's a lot of channels on Out of Spec, but this Out of Spec Detailing channel is sort of it's just amazing. Coleton is an extremely detail oriented guy. He's very meticulous about the job that he does, to the point where he doesn't want anybody to even work for him. He just does it all himself. And I'm like, Coleton, you got to hire like 10 people. You got a great business. He's like, no, I'm doing everything myself. And I respect that. And, I'm really curious to pick your brain today, knowing a lot about you as a person when it comes to your professional career for meticulously looking at things and making them perfect. But before we get into the Cybertruck, I just want to add one thing. This is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. If you ever get the pleasure, just go up, say hi to Coleton, man. Bear hug the guy. He's an amazing guy, and I'm proud to call him my friend. So, all right. Having said all that fluff, tell me about your Cybertruck experience. First of all, how did you even get the chance to go? How did that work?
Yeah, it was a pretty last minute deal. So, as we kind of saw with the referral, basically credits, you could, I think it was 30,000 points to be able to go to the actual event. We actually missed the opportunity before. I don't think any of us had enough credits in our actual account to be able to go, yeah, let's go down to Austin and do that. So last minute it came up. I think it was like a week before the event. I texted Kyle and said, dude, they're back online. And he gave me a call right back. He says, do you want to go? I'm like, we got to go do this thing. So it was a very last minute deal. Of course, everything Out of Spec is always very last minute, run and gun type stuff. It's really cool and awesome.
Well, this video we just decided to do 10 minutes ago. It was like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
Right? On the channel, so.
Yeah, gotta love it. But yeah, so Kyle and I ended up going down there, and I gotta say, this was genuinely one of the coolest experiences I've ever been around and had the opportunity to actually do. Kyle definitely has done factory tours before, lots of press and media events. This was my first factory tour ever. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. I literally in my free time watch, how like 911s are made and, watch them go through all of the different stages and see how they're painted. Like, that's really what I think is super, super neat. I'm just a car enthusiast and love all types of different vehicles.
I agree with you. I've always been fascinated with how things are made. As a matter of fact, for many years, the Connor family, we've gone down to the Dominican Republic in Puerto Plata, and there's a rum factory there called Brugal. When you go into this factory and you see the way the machines are making, and bottling and doing everything, it's just insane. So I can't even imagine how cool that must have been for you to set foot into the Cybertruck event. All right, so set the stage. You invited Kyle as your plus one. Let's be clear about this, right? I mean,
Nope, it was the other way around.
Oh, no way! I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, because I was going to give him a little crap for that, but all right. So he invited you as the plus one.
Yep. Before I even had the opportunity to reserve it, Kyle's like, "I already got tickets. We're going." Like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, that sounds like my boy. All right, so you guys met at the airport, and then what? How did you even get to the factory? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, so factory is super close there. I think it was like 3 or 5 miles, maybe 10 minutes total with traffic. It really was close to the Austin airport there. Kyle had pre-set up, of course, a Model 3 rental car. We had an LFP rear-wheel drive one. Had to roll up in style, of course.
Yeah.
So we had a Hertz rental. Immediately walked out. We were very scared, honestly. Kyle's flight got delayed. I think he arrived at like 12:20. We had to be fully checked in at 1:45 at the factory. We were hearing lines were crazy. So, I had Starbucks waiting for him, the pink drink ready to go. And it was like, get the rental car and go.
I noticed it was only a medium. It wasn't a large.
I'm not going to get it. I didn't order it.
No, I know. And the other thing that I was going to say to you was when you guys, after you got into Tesla Model 3, I just happened to check to see, where in the world is Kyle Connor? So I got him on Find My Friends. And so I looked and I saw him in the middle of like a dirt pile somewhere outside of Austin. And clearly the satellite maps have not been updated for the fact that there's a Cybertruck factory there now, right?
Yeah.
I was like, where are you guys going? There was literally a pond and some brush and I don't know. But anyway, that was just a little funny thing. So you got there in time, obviously, right?
Yeah, plenty of time we got there. So, I mean, first off, just rolling up to the factory was insane. The scale of what the operation actually looks like down there. My first time even, being in Austin, let alone the fact of going to a Tesla factory, rolling up. I mean, just parking lot after parking lot of employee vehicles. We saw a few Cybertrucks just chilling in the parking lot. And actually, this was my first time ever seeing one in person. I kind of I didn't go down to see the one we have in Littleton because I wanted to get that, initial wow factor of being at the factory, seeing these things produced. So it was really, really special to be able to go there, check this thing out because in all honesty, I was a huge, huge skeptic of the Cybertruck once it came out many years ago.
Yeah, me too. I remember when that thing came out, I was like, okay, that's a joke. Where's the real truck, right? This
Totally
is, some junior high school did a paper mache project on the side and Elon took that as a goof. And I was like, that's really it. So I went down to Meatpacking District the Saturday before. So, well, you know what I mean? Like before Thursday's event. They had the truck down there, and I got down there super early thinking it was going to be crazy crowded. There weren't that many people there, but there were some really dedicated Tesla folks. One guy in particular, I heard you ran into him or Kyle.
Yeah, we met him with like the whole plaid outfit. We said hey to him.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he was so into it. I was like, I need to talk to you. And when I saw the truck, I didn't quite know what to think about it. And I want to hear your impressions, but the more that I sort of stayed around it, the more normal it felt in sort of a weird way. So I do want to hear your impressions about the truck, but okay. So you get there, you see the truck, and then what was the arrival like and what was the process to check in?
Yeah, so arrival was pretty straightforward. They kind of guided us. We, of course, went into the wrong exit at the first part. You can check that out. The whole kind of walking into everything on the Out of Spec Reviews channel, the video that Kyle and I did.
Yeah.
But kind of roll in there. They had a supercharger that was completely off the map, which is really cool to see right where we parked. So we walk through this little queuing area, go through like a full body scanner, essentially. They had like cameras on there just to make sure you're not bringing any weapons or weird things like that in there. Kind of wait in a line, and we actually get in these quite large like coach buses, and they take us around the entire factory. and just this like little slit appears basically in the side of the building, and it's kind of the entryway that people have always seen from, you know, the Austin factory down there, and no Cybertrucks out there at all. We actually did get our badges before we hopped on the truck, scanned our QR code. Here you go. By the way, the badges were like the coolest thing ever.
Really?
Yeah, so all of the referral winners, which is kind of weird that they call it that when you're just spending points for it,
Right.
basically got the what I believe to be very close to, if not the same stainless steel that was actually on the truck. Nice little badge there, super cool. Going to be something that I hold on to forever because it's just like such a unique thing to be able to have one of those. But anyways, yeah, we walk into the doors. All the Tesla folks there were just the nicest people. One of my biggest takeaways really from this event was how enthusiastic the folks were about the Cybertruck, and how they would, you know, come up to you, and or you could go up to them, ask questions, and they were open to answering as much as they could. Kyle, pride and pride, of course, every
Yeah.
single employee he ran into there.
Right.
But man, they were so nice. So we walk through the doors, and immediately you see basically right towards the back, huge Cybertruck logo, and a Cybertruck without doors, without wheels, but some of the stainless parts on it. And that's when I went, holy smokes, these things look sick in person. I was just
Yeah.
so pumped about it. And like I said, the weeks leading up to this, I'm like, this is the dumbest looking truck I've ever seen. I don't get it. I mean, we've got stuff like Rivians next to me here. I think these things look awesome. And then I saw the Cybertruck and went, that's pretty cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And kind of this main area we went in was neat to be able to see not only the truck there, but they had, you know, the battery pack with some seats on it using like the structural battery pack we're seeing with the Model Ys that I don't believe they're even producing anymore. Got to see some of the motors and really started diving deep into, you know, everything going on there. Then we kind of walked through another set of doors onto the actual line. And both Kyle and I look at each other and are like, are you kidding me? We
They
didn't
brought
even.
you right into the factory.
Yeah, just here you go. So, like off to the left, you'll see in the video that we made. I mean, they had the final quality control area with all the lights and stuff, pretty much like I've tried to, you know, incorporate here at the shop with going through final quality checks and things like that. So, Model Y line was still up and running. There were cars buzzing in and out all the time. And then, kind of off to the right here, started basically the Cybertruck line. And it was really, this was just my most favorite experience, was just being able to see the trucks in all different stages, you know, doors off, some fenders on, the bedsides on, the wheels off. So you could really kind of understand the whole underpinnings of these vehicles.
So let me get this straight. So the Y line was actually running. They were building cars there. But when I watched your video on reviews with the one you did with Kyle, that was the Cybertruck was running in a demo mode. Am I correct?
Exactly. So, yeah, not much information. I mean, we literally walked in there, everybody's greeting us, and they just, you know, open the doors and go, holy smokes, like we're in the actual factory there.
Right.
So, as we start walking up there, what was really neat, Dave, they had basically at each station, they had like an employee talking about what's going on here and showing little demos of things. So, the first one we really saw was them putting in the massive windshield in this thing. So they had, you know, a display unit. I took some photos next to it thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to clean these things
Yeah,
in
I
a few
know.
months' time.
Right.
And they actually had one of the stations where they actually put it in, and you can see like it spins the glass around, would put the silicone on it and actually press it into the actual Cybertruck there. But it was in full demo mode, as we heard the employee talking
Completely
about
done
it.
by a robot too, right?
Yep, exactly.
Wow. That's
Yes.
that's insane. And so as you walked through the factory, you could see different stages of cars and how, you know, how they were using what percentage of the vehicle would you say is built by machines rather than humans?
I mean, ooh, I would say it's hard to say, honestly, because I don't think we saw the entire line, of course. We didn't see where they were pressing out the stainless steel. It was mostly when they're coming into their marriage point of putting in, the casting and then putting in all the suspension components on it and then starting to apply doors and body panels and things like that. So there was definitely a whole nother section we didn't even get to explore. Do I know if it's actually built? I have no idea. I mean, for all I know, and the skeptics out there are saying, "Oh, this was kind of a fake thing." It did not look fake whatsoever. I was genuinely shocked to see like how much work was already done. I really expected us to honestly see, here's 10 trucks, none of the line, nothing like that. But it it really seems like they are well above where I thought they would even be.
Right. It's one thing that stuck out to me after watching the video was how impressed you were with the actual stainless steel itself. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Just because I know that you work with metal a lot and you work with paint. And then the other thing I want you to say is that talk about is you're an expert in analyzing how to not just keep paint nice,
Yeah,
but
maintain and protect it.
maintain it and bring it back. But here it's just bare metal, right? So that's like a whole nother league. And the one thing you said, which was so funny, was like it looks like a big giant a big giant refrigerator.
Hmm.
That we would years ago we had a house up in Vermont with all stainless steel appliances, and there were always fingerprints on there. It drove my wife crazy. She's like, "Don't touch the refrigerator." I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm hungry, right?" What's
Yeah.
going on here?
And
But
that's definitely not changed, Dave.
yeah. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit first about the actual stainless steel and your impressions of the material that they are using.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say this is going to be more mass production than something like the DeLorean. Of course, we've seen that, years and years ago come out. Now, Tesla has developed this metal to be stainless steel, but it's basically a steel alloy. I believe this to be something with how SpaceX actually produces it, and they're going to have the joint venture of who's actually making the metal. Apparently, it is just like super hard stainless steel, very scratch resistant, very corrosion resistant. We'll actually see how that plays out in the coming years with these trucks. I mean, my biggest question is, okay, yeah, they're fine in Texas, they're fine in California, but areas like where we live here in Colorado or you in Connecticut, we salt our roads here. What is that actually going to look like on this metal? I believe them to be very corrosion resistant. We'll see. My thought process. I've got some videos that I've made, and in the process of making of, my thoughts on how am I going to protect this? How are we going to clean this? Because completely different than something like this Rivian behind me with, I would say, fragile paint. And that's kind of what Tesla is going after is, and I totally agree with this sentiment that, a lot of people buy trucks to work with. Now, do I think a lot of people are going to be buying Cybertrucks for work? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But basically, they're saying, oil field workers and, big, heavy construction folks, when you have a white F 150, these things are just trash. The paint looks like crap on them. I mean, you can dent them so easy with very thin aluminum, hard to replace. And then we saw some videos come out later on with, Matt Watson from CarWow kicking the side of the Cybertruck, slamming carts into it and stuff. And it seems really, really impressive. Um, I would say the biggest thing that I was surprised about was how nice the material actually looked in person. I personally think it's a shame that people are going to want to wrap these vehicles because the stainless steel in person, up close, and touching it and feeling it just looks incredible. Like the grain in the actual stainless steel is phenomenal. But man, oh man, is this thing an absolute fingerprint magnet? And I think we're going to see a lot of that with, road salt, dirt, bug stains, things like that. So we'll have a whole series on the Out of Spec Detailing channel once we have one in here, me testing every little, thing I can to not only make it clean up easier, but how to protect this material. If it needs protection, we're going to do all the testing.
So is the material itself, the final assembly material, a single ply or is it a laminate of some sort?
It seems to be basically like a sheet of metal that they are, bending into these certain points of like making a door panel, for example, or the rear truck bed. and actually watched a few videos, of course, like we all probably have on the Cybertruck. And they were talking about how if they were to actually bend it with a press, it was breaking the actual press. They had to come up with ways to actually mold and form this material. And yeah, that was my biggest takeaway from the actual material, is so impressive on how precise it was, which I was not expecting. How, just amazing it looks in person. Yeah,
I've seen a number of DeLoreans over the years, and they seem that, from what I remember, the DeLoreans had a little bit more grain in the metal,
yep,
and this seems a little bit smoother.
yep.
And do you think that is because it's smoother, it becomes the fingerprint magnet as opposed to a DeLorean, which might hide some of the fingerprints better, or do you think this is the better way to go?
I think this is a totally different material, so I'm not sure we can use the DeLorean as like the stainless steel benchmark, because this really isn't in the same categories. The DeLoreans use basically what's 304 stainless steel. They're calling this 30X, I think it is. So it's not really named, but I believe, X is Elon's favorite
Yeah.
alphanumeric character. So it's like, yeah, it's of course got to be X. But the 304 stainless steel is very similar, like on the DeLorean, to what you see in refrigerators, dishwashers, microwaves, and things like that. And it's funny because at home we have all stainless steel appliances in our new house, and my wife cannot clean them to save her life. And they're indoors, and that's what I've been thinking of, like, who
Yeah.
is going to be able to maintain this thing, on a vehicle that's outside, getting torn up in the dirt, the mud, the rain, tree sap, like all of this. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is very interesting for sure.
Let's shift gears a little bit to some of the things that you learned. I know after, so you went to the presentation, and that was kind of what everyone could see, that right there. We're not gonna add so much value there. The one thing that Kyle said that was very humanizing, if you will, during the actual presentation, was watching some of the reactions of the Tesla employees in the crowd that were saying, "Hey, that's my project," or, "I worked on that." Can you expand on that a little bit? Because, the one thing is that Tesla has always been a little bit distant, if you
Mm.
will, from the consumer. It's things like, oh, you want a service appointment, you got to put it in the app, or,
Yeah, you
when
can't call
you,
anybody, that type of
right.
deal.
And when you want to try and talk to someone, they're like, if you get someone on the phone, it's like maybe at a sign, they're at a point of weakness. Maybe they are human and they will talk to you. But I thought that was interesting. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we interacted with employees at all different stages throughout the day of, walking the line. Like I said, they had kind of a personnel that worked either on designing that part, engineering that part, or actually kind of overseeing how the actual assembly line goes. So, one, for example, Kyle went up to one of the engineers talking about the rear motor that they're using in the Cybertruck and asking him individual questions. And it was super cool just to be able to say, hey, what was the thought process behind doing an induction motor or a permanent magnet motor? Why did you make that decision? He would explain and expand on that a little bit. And then, as we walked down the line talking to the guy who was working on the front trunk, this being the first ever powered Tesla front trunk they've had. And then once we actually got to the presentation, I think Kyle nailed it on the head. It was probably about 50% Tesla employees at the actual event that everybody's seen, that was broadcasted and live streamed. And we were standing right behind, these guys. I think there were probably 10 of them in all black coats. Everybody at Tesla wears all black everything, but they had the Cybertruck logo, and it said like, I think chassis engineer, powertrain engineer, standing right in front of us. They had their laptops out with like a bunch of information. I'm trying to like look around
Really?
because, yeah, it was just so cool to be there and, watch these guys. They're working in the factory, working on these vehicles, and they're taking cell phone footage of this. Like, it was a really big event for the Tesla employees as well. And you really felt that they were enthusiastic. They were excited to share their product they've been working on, for the past 4 or 5 years, whatever it may be, to the actual public. And they're just like, we're an open book. Ask us anything.
Wow,
I
that's
mean, some
great.
stuff we can't say, but of
Yeah.
course. But yeah, that was really, really impressive. And Kyle was absolutely blown away with that of, how he could go up and ask a question. And he's like, I didn't really expect them to be open and honest
Right.
and excited about it type of deal.
I would imagine they were given instructions as to what to either say or not say, but it's refreshing, really refreshing, to hear that they had the attitude to be able to be share to share what they had, and also to experience their joy. Right? It was, someone said that, I don't know if it was you guys, but it's almost like you felt like you were at their event, an employee
Totally.
event, right? And that's special to be able to do that. And it wasn't orchestrated necessarily for the public. You were there witnessing, you were a fly on the wall, but part of it still amazing that they did that. People that were at this event, um, they seemingly shared a lot of the same comments about the Tesla employees. But I want to touch on a little bit here, a topic which is how many, whether they're creators or possible buyers of the car, were walking around bummed out, right, and
Oh
like
my gosh.
depressed. And meanwhile, this starts to get into a little bit of the social aspect of the way that Tesla does, maybe overpromise perhaps, or forward sell things and get the hype going. But if you can, I just want to hear your thoughts on that, because Kyle is usually not one to get excited. I know
Mhm.
that may come to a surprise to a lot of people, but those that really know him, it's like, I would go to him for years. God, this is amazing. Check this thing out. He goes, yeah, it's okay. Whatever. He's not easily impressed. And meanwhile, it was almost like a complete opposite going on there. And you were there to experience it, which I wish I was there to watch this, because he was feeling super impressed and everybody else was walking around bummed out. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it was honestly quite somber and weird after the live stream ended. So basically, they handed off 10 vehicles or whatever it was at the actual event. The live stream ended, Elon hopped in a Cybertruck, left, and then there were two of them sitting there, and it was just a bombardment of, people walking up to them and actually getting to touch them first time and first hand. And, Kyle was excellent about this, as he always is, interacting with people. He'd go up to a fellow content creator and go, so what do you think? And you just see like slumped shoulders. I'm really disappointed. And both of us are looking at each other going, what do you mean? What are you disappointed with? Well, it's more expensive than I thought. It's not getting the range that we thought. It's not the towing numbers that we thought. And I want to expand on this point slightly. I think, I watched the interview that Sandy Monroe did with Elon this morning, and it seems Elon's getting a little bit of training on, where they were talking about the $25,000 mass production Tesla that they're, going to launch whenever it is. And he goes, oh, I can't comment on numbers. And, so I think he's starting to understand that things that he says and promises, because how many times have we seen FSD 2 weeks and that type of stuff from Elon himself? I think he's starting to kind of catch on to that. Now, some other videos that I saw on, Top Gear and Car Wow and Marquez video, talking with Franz and the other, you guys are going to kill me in the comments, the other engineer that was in the Top Gear video, they were talking about they basically produced the first Cybertruck prototype in 90 days. And Elon goes, I love it. So I don't know like what goes on. None of us know what goes on behind closed doors, of course. I think they expected the 4680 cell to be a lot more efficient than it actually is, a lot more energy dense by the time the Cybertruck actually came out. So I think this may be a learning situation for Tesla to go, maybe we don't say, yeah, we're going to have a $40,000 Cybertruck. When you look at this thing, you go, there's no way they could have ever produced this truck for 40 grand. It's just like, how do you even comprehend that?
Yeah, I was when I was down in the meatpacking district in New York, I was talking to a guy. He's like, I said, so what do you think? What do you think the price is going to be? And he goes, well, I think we're going to get 500 miles of range for 40 grand. I said, that is not going to happen. I said, there's no way that's going to happen. I want to talk to you a little bit about your experience as you were leaving the factory, and you were very slow to leave the factory, and the benefit of that. Tell me about that. That must have been surreal.
Oh, it was. I mean, I don't remember who it was, but they said it best. It was like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory type of deal. Like, so the event ended. There was, of course, those two
I heard
Cybertrucks I talked about.
Francie said that, right? It was like,
Yeah,
you go
exactly.
off to the side like the Blueberry Kid or whatever, and you go
Yeah.
off there, and Charlie and his uncle, right? And they're
Exactly.
yeah. So you
Exactly.
were who was Charlie and who was Willy Wonka? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I don't even know. It was honestly surreal would be the best word. I keep saying everything was the coolest experience, but that last couple of 15, 20, 25 minutes, whatever it was, I don't know, time just like stopped, and Kyle and I were just in Disneyland here. But basically those two Cybertrucks were sitting there where they unveiled them during the live stream, and slowly you would see people trickle out. We actually walked back through the factory same way that we, came in. And all of a sudden, we're talking with people and we look around and we go, oh my God, we're the only people here. It was, Tesla security. They had folks coming in, cleaning up the mess of people being in there, of course, all the trash, all the cans and things like that, taking out all the cool lights. And, Kyle and I just go, huh, I guess we better start walking back. And, one of the security guards said, hey, no hurry.
Really?
But if you guys want to start making your way back, that'd be great. So once we started walking, we walked through basically the tunnel where the trucks came out of, and we're just kind of meandering through there. They had two security guards basically trailing us. Nicest people ever. I honestly, towards the end, I started feeling bad. I was like, we're wasting their time. Kyle even towards the end said, we're so sorry. And they're like, no, we're happy to be here. We're happy you're excited about the product. And it's like, okay, this is awesome. So as we go walk,
were you guys filming or just walking around?
everything. I mean, it was walking up to pieces like, the tires and wheels and touching them, the display that they had there for the front trunk with the actual stainless steel. We're just going up there, taking photos, videos, like poking our phones through the fences of the actual line, because some of the parts were, had these mesh fences on them, and we're doing whatever. The only thing they wouldn't let us do essentially was go backwards. So we're just at like a slow, steady pace, but it was genuinely the wildest thing I've ever experienced to be able to walk up to things. We're just pointing out little things. Cause like I said, seeing these trucks in all different stages was probably the coolest part. I mean,
yeah,
we saw one station where basically they had come off the line and it looks like they went into an area where a human would come in and install some components. They had that under tray that everybody's been talking about, the departure angle, and I was giving my theories, which was completely wrong about why they actually did that area under there. But it was so cool to see just different components off of the trucks, because you go into the meatpacking district, or I go down to Littleton, you see a truck that looks very nice, yada yada yada, but seeing the underpinnings is really cool. One of the things that I thought was really, really neat was seeing the bed sides off and where the actual tonneau cover sits in the Cybertruck. Very, very low in the, almost down to the battery pack, and it shoots up, goes up the back glass and basically down, as opposed to Rivian, how they stack those, the tonneau cover there. Just really cool to see the packaging underneath there. The front trunk exposed without any of the plastic in there, seeing all the steering components. Of course, steer-by-wire was a huge thing. That we didn't really know at the time. Elon vaguely touched on it, but has come to be a big deal.
I watched Kyle's podcast this morning, an Out of Spec podcast with Francie, on the whole topic was steer-by-wire, and steer-by-wire. Okay, I learned so much about like, you know, the implications and what's going to happen with that. So check that out if you can, if you're interested in the steer by wire, because that seemed to be a pretty hot topic at the show as well. So I'm just curious about when you were walking in towards before the event actually happened, you know, where the where Elon came out and all that. Were you walking past the same cars, and did they give you different access when you were leaving than what you had? Like I saw lines in the road and in the floor, and I heard Kyle say in one of the videos like, "Well, get back on this side of the line," or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
Were the security guys were like, "Hey, whatever," and you could just walk up to the cars, or was it not like really loosey goosey like that?
I mean, I think if you started to get a little crazy and like really go into it, somebody would have definitely said something. But like for example, just past the line there, they had, you know, all the tires stacked up, and I'm, you know, reading the sidewall of it, being that this is a, you know, one-off production, a Goodyear tire for the Cybertruck, and being able to see this thing up close is, I mean, you could touch anything there. I just think like if you went onto the actual line, somebody would have said,
Yeah.
get out of there type of deal.
Right.
But
Okay.
after we kind of, you know, took our very sweet time walking through the line, we came out to that front entrance we came in before, and there were probably 20 to 30 Cybertrucks sitting there, all the ones you've seen. So they had the matte black
Yeah.
PPF one,
How
which
did
was
you
really
like that? What did you
yeah,
think of?
not into it.
No. Okay.
I like the color. What I'm not sold on, and I probably need to make a video about this, is Tesla offering PPF or wrap jobs as a factory option. Some interesting thoughts there. You know, this metal is very different than working on something like this Rivian. The edges seem to be sharp is not the right word, but very coarse and very textured. I think a lot of installers are going to have issues wrapping corners and things like that, especially on a full color change. If you're not wrapping every single edge, you're going to see exposed edges. It's going to look kind of weird. It being silver, it may not look bad, but you could see like on the black one, basically looking at the rear lift gate where it goes down the side bed. I mean, you could just see all the PPF kind of rolled over. Didn't look very good. The other couple of things we saw there was some of their aftermarket accessories. So the light bar, they actually had the basically Baja Cybertrucks with the big graffiti on the side that they took on their huge off-road expedition.
Yeah.
Super cool to see those in person. They also had crash tested ones. So they had, you know, ones that were front impact and one that was a side impact. And then they had the one with the actual bullet holes in it. You could walk up to any of these things. You could open the doors to them, not the crashed ones. But they had a few examples. So you could actually see the interior, feel the interior. I do want to make a note. We did talk to the head of Cybertruck interior. He actually came up to Kyle and I. Of course, he recognized Kyle and said, "Oh, I watch Coleton's videos too," which I was like, okay, this is crazy.
That's cool. Isn't that great? Wow.
It's so wild. It's really cool. And we had that interaction with a few Tesla employees, which is just
super cool.
Yeah, it's so awesome. But the interior, we were asking him about the material. He's like, yep, very similar to Model S. So like really high quality seats that they're putting in these. So it was just really interesting to like touch and feel and see everything really behind the scenes before, you know, the general public has. So after we left the actual factory there, we went to the after party, which was with the Tesla owners of Austin, I think the name was. Now, Andreas, our German friend, he had traveled down to Austin. He's, you know, does remote work and things like that. He was texting us saying, "Hey, I'm already here. Elon's going to come at 6 o'clock." And Kyle and I are looking at each other. He's like, "Elon's not coming to this event." But what they did have there was, you know, an area for a truck to pull up. So, of course, Cybertruck. And there was actually two of them that ended up coming. So Franz actually came, the head of, you know, Cybertruck design there, and a customer delivered one. It actually had the California paper plate on it. So it was a customer delivered one. Yeah, and basically just a ton of content creators. Sandy Monroe, of course, our friends from the Kilowatts, and just a ton of people. I mean, endless amount of content creators that, we've interacted with through Twitter and seen them watch their videos. It was
Yeah.
really, really cool.
Sounds like Tesla did it right, and did it right not only in the way with which they showed the product by having you go onto the factory floor, but also the people there and the way that
Mm.
they treated everyone. And that to me is surprisingly refreshing, and it makes me like the brand even more than I already do. So I think the access that you guys have, when you're out, whether it's Porsche or Mercedes or VW and all that, I just don't think you kind of expect that same sort of interaction with Tesla, employees at the factory, and it's great to see that. I hope that continues and that spirit continues. It's almost along the lines of, Tesla saying maybe they're going to start doing things a little bit differently with advertising, and
Hmm.
maybe there's something happening here. But yeah, so listen, open mic. Anything you want to say about the Cybertruck, in terms of, especially from your lens, from a detailer? What are your thoughts about how to take care of this vehicle? What do you think people should be doing?
Yeah, honestly, Dave, I don't know. And I'm going to be the first one to, I've been in the detailing industry for 10 years now, ran my own business by myself. And I am always a student of the trade, as I like to say. I am not cut and dry into, one particular product, one particular brand, one process. My detailing career has evolved tremendously over the years and I'm open to experimenting with stuff. Say I have the best ceramic coating, or I think at the time, I'll try anything. I don't care about, having an alliance with one single brand, because I just want to use the best stuff. I want to
Mhm.
use stuff that actually works. The Cybertruck's going to be a huge learning curve for myself, as well as everybody who owns one of these. It is not like something like a Rivian. I mean, yes, Rivians can be a little bit more tricky to work on than other vehicles, but at the end of the day, I always have this saying, paint is paint. I've worked on, Ferraris and Lamborghinis and vehicles like that. And of course, Teslas and Rivians. And at the end of the day, paint is paint, plastic is plastic. Some are nicer than others, but you treat them the same way. This is really a whole new experience as it comes to car care and maintaining. I hope there's people like Dirty Tesla that Kyle did the interview with last night that
That was
don't.
that was fascinating. I loved seeing those two guys together.
Agreed.
Amazing,
Yeah, great time.
really
I
good.
listened to the entire thing,
Me too.
and I hope there's folks like that who don't care one bit about the vehicle. And I know your son Kyle is going to be that way. He's like, "You are not washing this." I'm sure I'll pry it out of his hands to wash it a few times, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, my mind, honestly, Dave, the last couple of weeks has been spinning with ideas on how to maintain this finish. What are ways for my clients and customers? Because I've already had a bunch of people reach out and saying, "Hey, when I get mine, it's coming straight to you." And they're like, "What are we going to do?" And I go, I don't know. I mean, we're going to figure it out. Lots
The
of
first thing
testing.
you're going to do is you're going to call me and say, "Hey, Dave, I got a Cybertruck. Fly out."
Yeah, you'll be here for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I know Kyle will be here wanting to test every little aspect. That's
yeah.
that's honestly what I'm most excited about. I got to say, from the actual, going to the factory was incredible. I thought the delivery live stream was kind of a miss in my impression. I think they should have expanded on, the 48-volt architecture a little bit more, the steer by wire, the 800-volt architecture. I mean, these are all really big things that are changing. And I think you probably saw, we've seen a lot of comments from Kyle and I's video. We didn't have a ton of information at the time. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw what you guys saw, and then all of a sudden pricing came in. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, go check the pricing." And that is, we are getting little snippets of information. Now we're debriefing from, a week ago now, really figuring out this thing, seeing all the actual hands-on reviews, and things are definitely changing. I think the thing I'm most excited for is for Kyle to actually get his hands on one of these and test this thing, put it through the ringer, go through a range test, go through charging tests, And, for myself, I'm just anxious to wash these things and clean them and protect them. So
Yeah.
we have testing on testing on testing to do here out of spec.
Yeah. One concern I have is what's going to happen when one of these Cybertrucks gets into an accident, and I worry a little bit about the materials. And it's tough enough when you have a problem with the Tesla today just to find a certified body shop to work on it. But now all of a sudden you've got a completely new material, and I wonder how the insurance companies are going to be charging premiums for understanding that this is a different type of material. It's kind of like, remember the Corvettes, right? Are Corvettes still fiberglass today? I don't
Yep. Even the C8 variants are, yes.
They are, right? And so yeah, so there's some interesting things. But look, what's great is we've started on sort of the sun has risen on an entirely new product. I'm so excited that both you guys were able to go and bring us firsthand sort of impressions. A lot of people got caught up in it's the design, it's the look, it's crazy, it's like, wow, what is this thing? And but now that we've kind of all gotten over that as a community, now the question is, what is this thing really going to drive like? What kind of range is it going? It's not even that, it's efficiency, it's different things that it's going to do through its paces. So I look forward to seeing all of the testing that comes out, not just from Out of Spec, but from anyone that gets one. Like, listen, everybody's going to have a perspective about it, and that's amazing. So yeah, Coleton, listen, thank you so much. This has been tremendous. I mean, I feel like I really did want to download and get your take on this. The fact that I'm able to record this and throw this up onto onto a YouTube channel and have others share and listen to what your thoughts were, it's great. And for those of you who do not subscribe yet to the Out of Spec Detailing channel, what I will tell you is, don't think you have to be like this super meticulous guy about keeping. Coleton really does some incredibly good testing, and he shows people basic things too, not just the high-end stuff. Coleton has people shipping cars to him from all over the country. He's a super high-end detailer, and that's great. But he also is a very super down-to-earth guy that can give you some great tips as far as how to keep your car looking as best as possible. So I highly encourage you to watch his channel. I'm proud of the growth of your channel, Coleton, and I really want to thank you again for coming on and sharing your experience at the Cybertruck.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it, Dave. Yeah, I'm just kind of in your footsteps here. I'm just trying to keep up with your channel. Your channel's killing it. My wife and I love watching you and Kathy. We were watching the Model X video recently where she drove it for the first time. We were just dying laughing the whole time.
Yeah,
so keep
I
it
know.
up.
She's terrific, and it's funny. She's really starting to get into the cars now, which is amazing.
You can tell.
Yeah,
you can tell.
She's getting into it, and you know what? She doesn't take crap from me anymore. She's like,
no, she
face, and I love it. I love her for that. So. All right, guys. Well, listen, everyone, thanks again for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave. Coleton, thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll definitely catch you guys on the next one. Keep your eyes peeled on the road for a Cybertruck, and when you see one, please call me because I want to know. I want to go there and check it out. Take care now. Bye-bye.